I'm sure we've all skipped a few classes in high school and it wasn't a big deal. You probably just asked your friends after class to send you their notes, or you asked the teacher for the lesson plan of that day. This might have worked for you in high school, but today I'm going to tell you why you definitely should not skip your college classes. Skipping your college classes will put you behind on your schoolwork, it will set a bad example for yourself on the teacher, and will end up hurting your overall grade and your GPA. So how does skipping your classes put you behind on your schoolwork? If you're behind on your homework already, it might sound like a good idea to stay home and work on that instead of attending your lectures. This will actually put you more behind on your schoolwork because you won't get that information needed for your homework that you learned in that lesson. Even if you ask your friends after class to send you their notes that they took, you will still spend the same amount of time or even more time trying to copy down those notes and understand them yourself. Everyone takes notes differently, and you won't be able to get the information needed from other people. Your professor might give very important information about an upcoming exam or assignment that your friend just didn't write down. Now, even if your professor decides to upload the lecture online or upload a PowerPoint of it, you might think that there's no point in going. Well, according to an article from Empirical Economics, if a student attends live lectures and tutorials, they are compelled to work through, or at least to sit through, all the materials with the instructor. The article also points out that although students may plan to skip classes and then catch up later using online materials, they are often not disciplined enough to follow this through. No matter how much you want to skip a class or think that it might be better to stay home and study, it is so important for your learning that you actually go to class. It will help you keep up with your homework, and it will cut down the time it takes to do your assignments because you already have the information needed to complete them. Skipping your classes also sets a bad impression of yourself to your professor. Having a good relationship with your professor is actually a lot more important than you might think. No matter how good you think the work is that you're turning in, your professor is ultimately the one that is grading it. If you build a good relationship with your professor by either talking to them after class or even just showing up and paying attention and taking notes during the lecture, your professor will want to help you with any questions you might have or help giving you extra credit opportunities. If you're rarely in class and you ask your professor for extra help, they'll have no reason to want to go out of your way to help you when you couldn't go out of your way to go to class. If you're in class every day, putting in that effort, and you're still failing, your teacher will see the effort that you're putting in and want to help you and want to give you the extra credit opportunity. Building a relationship with your professor is also very important for when you get done with college. When you're applying for a job, you need good recommendations from professors. If you didn't show up to any classes, your professors most likely won't want to give you a good recommendation. Lastly, skipping your classes over and over again will end up hurting your grade and GPA. According to the Journal of Economic Education, during a semester, the more lectures a student attends, the better overall grade he or she obtains. This is because if you show up to every lecture, you learn the material in the class, you can take notes over the material, and then when you get home, you study that material that you learned and took notes over. If you miss those lectures, you skip a very important step in your learning process, and instead of getting to go home and study that material before the test, you have to go home and try and learn it yourself, and you end up cramming right before the test, trying to study right before. In a study from American Educational Research Association, results showed that class attendance is strongly correlated with class grades and GPA in college. Some classes already have a mandatory class attendance policy for this exact reason, and a reanalysis of Cooker's data shows that the proportion of students getting a D or an F in experimental psychology class was 12.6% when attendance was not mandatory, and that this dropped to 3.9% when class attendance was mandatory. So even if your class doesn't require attendance, this will show you that attendance in your class is actually very important, and if you want to succeed and keep your grades and your GPA up, it is very important you attend your classes. I hope that whenever you feel unmotivated to go to your classes and just want to stay at home, you remember these points and you push through and just go, because it'll be worth it in the end.